Okay, let's continue with our second half of the review. So let's go to next question, so which is going to be 19. Right. In the figure above, the economy initially is at point B, then price level rises by 10. The Wells effect will help. Okay, so let's see what happens. So actually here, this is the aggregate demand curve, right? And so the aggregate demand curve, now what happens? So there is price change, right? And this price change, and so effectively that's going to decrease the household purchasing power. Okay, so it is going to have a Wells effect. But however, remember in class we discussed about Wells effect. So this Wells effect is caused by price change. So this Wells effect is not caused by, say, for example, other things, including market collapse or housing market crash. Okay, so and then so we are going to see a move along the curve instead of shift of the curve. All right, and then so the demand will decline. So the demand is going to decline to this direction, right? But now, so because the price rise by 10, and then so it's going to change from 110 to 120. So the new point will be C. So the answer is going to be D. All right. So now let's look at 20. Which of the following increase aggregate demand? Let's go one by one. A decrease in foreign income. Okay, so the decrease in foreign income won't change domestic aggregate demand. Okay, B, a decrease in government expenditure. Okay, so the government expenditure also won't affect aggregate demand. Sorry, let me start again. So a decrease in foreign income, it may decrease aggregate demand through decrease in export. Okay, and a decrease in the government expenditure will decrease aggregate demand. And a rise in interest rate, actually that's going to decrease aggregate demand through decrease in investment. And lastly, a decrease in income, the decrease in tax, so that's going to increase aggregate demand through increase in disposable income. Okay, so the answer is D. So make sure you understand each options, or understand the explanation I just provide regarding to each options. So in the exams, I may ask opposite. Like say, for example, so which of the following decrease aggregate demand? So you can realize A, B, C, they are all correct. Right? So 21. When real GDP exceeds potential GDP, then the economy has, so real GDP more than the potential GDP, so typically, so we are in an inflationary gap. Okay, and so in the class, we say, so usually we focus on demand shock. And you must realize, so this is going to cause by a positive demand shock. Okay? So this positive demand shock leads to an inflationary gap. So P is going to increase. Y is going to increase. Right? So this is 22. Now let's go 20. Oh, sorry, 20, that was 21. Now look at 22. In the above figure, the short aggregate supply curve is SAS, aggregate demand is AD. A recessionary gap exists. Okay, so this is a typical mistake students make, right? So actually, let's just think about three possibilities. First, if this is a long aggregate supply, So that means the potential GDP is 15. Now, the real GDP is what? Real GDP is going to be determined by short aggregate supply cross aggregate demand. So that just means the real GDP is 16. If this is the long aggregate supply, so meaning so we produce more than we potentially can produce, right? So this is not a recession. So now if we look at here, okay, long run aggregate supply in long run aggregate supply given by LAS3. So now you can see the potential GDP is 17. Now we produce less than our potential GDP. So then we are in the recessionary gap. So the answer is B. Okay, so this is 22. 23, a consumption function shows, so the consumption function actually is given by C equal to, if it's aggregate, then A plus MPC times YD. So this is consumption function. So clearly this shows a positive relationship between consumption expenditure and disposable income. Right? So answer is A. So 24, which of the following concerning the MPC, so marginal propensity to consume, and the consumption function is true? So A or 1, the larger the MPC, the greater the amount of autonomous consumption. So look at here. So autonomous consumption is independent of MPC. So that one is not correct. 2, the larger the MPC, the steeper the consumption function. So MPC actually gives us the slope of the consumption function. So this one is correct. The answer is B. This is for 24. Now let's look at 25. Aggregate planned expenditure. Okay, let's go one by one. A equal to aggregate expenditure at the equilibrium level of real GDP. Okay, so this is correct. Now let's look at other options. B is always greater than the actual aggregate expenditure. That's not true, right? So and then so C is the same. Okay, and the D is also, so this is always equal actual aggregate expenditure. So it only equals actual aggregate expenditure when we are at the equilibrium level. Okay, so answer is A. Okay. Now look at 26. The graph of the aggregate expenditure curve has what on the Y and what on the X. Okay, so that is coming from the definition. Okay, so actually C. So we have real GDP. So that gives us income on X axis or horizontal line. Aggregate planned expenditure on the vertical line. Okay, so this is 26. Now look at 27. In the above figure, if real GDP is below 15, I believe this is an identical question we have seen before, right? So essentially, so if we are on the left side of 15, so expenditure exceeds real GDP. So the firm, so we are so the inventory will be below target. The firm will increase production, right? So we have seen this earlier. So B. So the identical question. 28. If the slope of aggregate expenditure increase, the multiplier. Oh, so maybe we can look at it here, right? So this is the aggregate expenditure curve. So the slope of aggregate expenditure curve is given by MPC. Why? Because in the class we say aggregate expenditure equal to what? C plus I planned it. And C equal to A plus MPC times YD. And then plus I planned it. I planned it is fixed with Y. So then so clearly you can see the slope of aggregate expenditure is given by this term, MPC. Right? So if the slope of this aggregate expenditure increase, meaning MPC increase. So multiplier equal to 1 over 1 minus MPC. So this is going to increase. Okay, so 28 answer is C. Okay. Now look at 29. The value of the multiplier in the economy illustrated in the figure above. So we need to find out the multiplier. But then, so first we need to find out MPC. Right? So let's see so how we can find out MPC. There are many ways. Okay, so the easiest way is look at here. Right, so here. No, the probably easiest way is just look at here. Compare this point versus this point. Okay, and then so you can see. So from let's the label then say call this A to B. So we move from A to B. So C change from 6 to 12. Or right, so this increase in C, right? And then disposable income change from what? From 0 to 12. And then so you can easily find out MPC equal to 12 minus 6 by 12 minus 0 equal to 0.5. And then so multiplier equal to 2. Okay, so answer is A. Hmm. 30. Given the MPC of 0.80, if there are no income tax or import and the tax and the prices are constant, then when investment increase by 50 and the price are fixed, equilibrium GDP would. All right, so actually we can use the same things here, right? So basically this says, so if the curve shift up by 50, and so how the income or how the real GDP change. All right, and then so this actually this link with the multiplier, and then here, so first we can calculate a multiplier equal to 5. Okay, and so the equilibrium GDP will increase by a factor of 5 when investment increase by 50. So the answer for 30 should be A, 5 times 50 or 50 times 5. Okay. So now go to 31. The aggregate demand curve slope downwards, and because the Wells effect and the substitution effect. Right, so this substitution effect actually refers to interest rate. Interest rate effect. Okay, so we talk about in the class. Now we go to 32. The multiplier effect is smallest. Okay, so now let's see which one is correct. The multiplier effect is smallest. The answer is D. And why is that? is because in the long run, so everything will be flexible and everything will adjust, right? And so you're going to see in the long run, everything is going to wash out. That means the multiplier effect will wash out. Okay, so the answer is D. Now we go to 33. The table above gives the aggregate demand and aggregate supply schedule in Lotus land with no change in aggregate demand or long-run aggregate supply. In long-run macroeconomic equilibrium, the price will be and the real GDP will be. So we need to find out the long-run equilibrium. Okay. Right, so what happened in the long run? In the long run, the equilibrium is going to be determined by demand and the long run aggregate supply. Okay, and then so you can see the answer is going to be B. Right, so in this row, so this is going to equal to each other. Right, and so in the short run, so here is important. In the short run, the equilibrium is going to be in this row. In the short run, so equilibrium will be 110, this is the price. Quantity will be 500. But in the long run, the price will be 100. Right? And so quantity will be 600. Okay? So make sure you understand how the economy is going to adjust from short run to long run. So actually, so we can draw a graph. Okay? So this is long run, so this is 600, right? And the short run, so we have here, this is our short run. All right, so the demand is going to be the same. So in the long run, so the supply is going to move to here. Right? And then clearly in the short run, so we have a recessionary gap. In the short run, we have a recessionary gap. Okay? So this recessionary gap will push down the wage rate, and then aggregate supply will shift to the right. So eventually we are here. So level here. So this is short run equilibrium. And this is long run equilibrium. Okay, so again, so answer for 33 is B. Okay. So 34. In the above figure, curve A, so A is long run aggregate supply. B is short run aggregate supply. C is aggregate demand. Right? So 34, the answer is clearly C. Now we'll go to next one. In the above figure, at the price level of 140, real GDP of, okay, so if price is 140, and the real GDP, so it's going to be determined by the aggregate supply, short run aggregate supply, right? And interestingly, so this is equal to long run, so now the real GDP is 150. Sorry, it's 15. It's 15, right? And so now, but here at the price of 140, so the demand is going to be 5, meaning so we produce too much, and that's what happens. So the firm will not be able to sell their output, so they are going to reduce the production. Okay? So answer for 35 is going to be option C. Okay, so this is 35. Now we go to 36. The table above gives the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. The short run is Right, so this is the same table we have studied. But in the previous question, we look at long run. And now here, this question asks you, what is going to be the short run? What happened in the short run? Equilibrium, right? And for short run, so we are going to look at these two columns. Okay, and so this is a short run equilibrium. But in the long run, as we just studied, so we are going to look at these two. Right? And then so we are going to see this is for long run. Right? So the answer here is C. C. Yes, it's C. Okay. So next one, 37. In the above figure, suppose the economy had been at point A. No, so it was at A, and now it's at B. Okay. What could have led to the movement to B? Okay. So most likely, so this is caused by a demand shock, right? But of course, so we can think about, so what kind of a supply shock is going to lead to a movement to here? Okay. Now let's go one by one. A increase in money wage. So if there was an increase in monetary wage, so that is supposedly, so that's going to move the aggregate supply to the left-hand side, right? And then this is not possible, so we move from A to B. Okay, so B, an increase in government expenditure on goods and services. So that is going to lead to aggregate demand curve shift to the right. Yes, it's possible. So maybe we start from here and then we'll go to here. And C, a tax hike. A tax hike is going to reduce demand and supply at the same time. So C is not possible. D, winter storm caused factories in the north to shut down for several weeks. So this is the same as A. So that's going to cause the aggregate supply shift to the left. Okay? So the answer, it should be B. Okay. Now, question 38. Based on the data in the table above, the economy will be in short run equilibrium at price level of, okay, so for short run, so we look at these two columns. Okay, and we look at when they equal to each other. Right? So then the clearly answer is A. Okay, so now let's see. Oh, okay, so we are done with this review. So all the answer is toward the end of the document, right? And so in class, I have explained to you one by one. So if you study this carefully, you should do a good job in the actual exam, right? So as I just mentioned earlier, for the exam, just make sure you submit the exam on time. Otherwise, you're going to receive an incomplete grade. And in the exam, if you have any concern or anything is unclear to you, please let me know in the exam. All right. Thank you so much for your time. So I will be here. And so if you have any questions, just let me know.